For the introduction to Mr. Pickett. John has been a resident of Clarenville for the past 30 years. Since that time, John has been actively involved in volunteer work, particularly in the field of sport and recreation. He's a past president of the Clarenville Area Recreation Association. He is has also served as provincial director with Sport Newfoundland and Labrador. In 1987, John was awarded the Leroy Miller Award for his contribution towards the promotion and development of sports in the local area. In 1994, he was a member of the organizing committee for the Newfoundland and Labrador Summer Games, hosted by the town of Clarenville. So it should be Winter Games, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. For the past 5 years, John has served as a chairperson for the Vista Regional Games. John is currently a member of the local Jumpstart Committee and also serves on the board of directors of the Random Age Friendly Committee. John holds a degree in social work from Memorial University and was employed with the government of Newfoundland and Labrador from 1974 through 1998. In 1998, he became an employee of Eastern Health and is currently the regional manager within the Community Support Program. John was first elected to a municipal town council in 1998 and served on council until 2005. In 2009, John was re-elected to council, and for the past 4 years, he has served as the chairperson for the town's Finance and Administration Committee. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Pickett.
Thank you, Brian. I'm not sure who wrote that bio, but as soon as I get to get my speech writer checked. Was the 1994 Winter Games and not the Summer Games. Anyway, thank you, Brian, and thank you for attending and giving us the opportunity to explain to the business community our budget for 2013. And I know we're running out of time. If you don't know, the Premier is announcing you can shuffle at 1 o'clock. So if my phone rings at 1 o'clock, I'm gone anyway. So I'll let my colleague, Councillor Nicholl, finish the presentation. So, like I say, Councillor Nicholl is here, and so I want to acknowledge, of course, the CIO, Mr. Hiscott. Anyway, our budget for 2013. What I will do is just give some brief information as to our budget numbers. What I plan to do is we'll go through our expenditures on the budget side, and I will outline some of the areas where they take up most of the expenditure in that particular areas. We'll also have a brief look at the revenues that we generate from the town, and we will also look at the tax structure for 2013, and in that we'll outline a new strategy that we've implemented this year for low-income individuals. And we'll take a quick look at the various tax categories that we have and the mill rate that we've assigned to each category. And at the end of it, we'll look at just briefly explain our long-term debt repayment schedule that we got, and look at some of the initiatives we're doing as a town for 2013. And following that, then any questions, and I'll certainly try to do the best to answer what we can. Anyway, we'll start with as you see on the screen, the budget is really broken down into 7 categories. And in those various categories, I will just give a brief highlight as to where some of the money is going in that particular category. Overall, you see the total expenditure for our budget for 2013 is a little over $9 million. $9,040,040 actually. So that's the highest budget for this town we've seen in since the incorporation. It's an increase of about 6% over last year's budget. And if I can recall, when I first got elected to council back in 1998, I think our budget was somewhere around maybe $5.5 to $6 million. So the town is rapidly growing, as you can see by the budget that we currently have. Let's go back to general administration first, Bob. So this, what I'll do, I'll take you through the various categories and give you some degree of how we spend the money in each category. So in the general administration category, for example, our total budget this year will be a little over $1 million, $1,175,000. So in the particular category, there's a number of items that's there. For example, one of the things in that category is council remuneration, which will cost around $53,000. If you don't know, councillors, do get a small amount of remuneration for serving on council. This particular town happens to be it's not very high in terms if you look at the other municipalities across the province. So Councils by law are allowed to take 2% after revenue for administration, for enumeration. So our particular town has never used that particular levy, and really the enumeration for councillors in this town is fairly small when you look at the other areas of the province. Wages, we have to pay staff. We have I believe we have 8 departments and 8 department heads. So the wages for our administration staff is approximately $420,000 for the town. Insurance, our town insurance, for example, in that particular category, we pay currently around $170,000 a year for insurance for all our facilities and for whatever. The assessment costs, we pay approximately $96,000 to the Municipal Assessment Agency. The Municipal Assessment Agency has the authority and responsibility to go to municipalities and do assessments on properties. And we'll certainly talk about that later, because we're well aware of what happened in this particular year when the MMA did a reassessment, and most municipalities face a very high increase in the residential property costs. And I'll talk somewhat about that later on. And other various categories, like in public relations for donations. We have a donations policy for the town. We have grants that we give to various civic groups. We get money in a budget for promotions and promotional items and some community activities. For example, off the top of my head, the Heritage Society, for example. We fund the Heritage Society to the tune of about $10,000 a year. So that makes up the bulk of what we spend in the general administration category. Fire and protective services, our budget this year is around $276,000. And in that particular area, of course, we pay honorariums to the fire department, to the members of the fire department. We pay wages when they go on, we put them on call. That comes to about $60,000, $80,000. Really, and we have in this community a very first-class fire department, bar none. And we get away, as a matter of fact, fairly cheaply. We have a 35-member fire department that we pay, a very small honorarium to on a yearly basis. We do have an on-call system. I think they take turns going on call, and we pay them for that. But the money that we spend for our fire department, when you look at the services we get for our communities, certainly it's very, very small. And they do first class job, no question about that. Our fire department in the province, no doubt, is recognized all across the province as one of the best run, best organized fire department in the province. Also, in that particular category, we have municipal enforcement. This year, we had, for those people who were on council before, know very well that we did have an enforcement officer in the town for the last, over for a couple of years, above and on. This year, we've put the money in the budget of around $50,000, and we still have some discussion at the council level as to when and what sort of role that particular person will play in our municipality. But most council, I think, has felt that maybe the time has come to look at the role of the municipal enforcement and may bring somebody back. Transportation services, you'll see the budget there of almost $2 million, 1.9. And again, in that particular area, some of the biggest expenses would be for labor for road maintenance. We have outside labor staff. The money for that would cost us about $600,000 a year to do that. This year we've added some funding to that particular category. Our plan is to hire maybe 3 or 4 additional casual workers over the summer to do some work on our roads and maintenance on our streets and those sort of things. Snow removal, of course, is in that particular category as well. For labor, for example, for ice and snow, when December rolls around, we change our staff from labor work on the roads to snow removal. Labor, ice and snow, wintertime, our budget will cost us about $300,000. We have to buy ice and snow and salt. Costs us about $225 for sand and for salt. Street lighting is also in that particular category. We have to, if you go around town, you know our street lights. Our street lights cost us about $150,000 a year. So, like I say, in that particular budget, was almost $2 million. The other environmental health cost us a little over $1 million, 1.199. Of course, and in that particular category is the water treatment plants. As you know, we've just, a few years back, we developed a $15 million water treatment plant. And of course, there's ongoing maintenance to that. And as a matter of fact, even as we speak, the time has come that we need to talk about expanding that particular plant. There's some talks now that we're maybe running out of our own water in terms of treated water, and we may have to give some thought to expanding and putting money into expanding that plant. So, in that particular category, $190,000 a year cost we spend for hydro to run the water treatment plant. Wages for the water plant for our staff that we have to maintain the plant is around $230,000. Again, in that particular category, we look at our garbage and our waste disposal. A garbage contract, for example, costs us about $300,000 a year. A garbage contract at present, for those who don't know, is we did have a long-term garbage contract. Waste management now is in the process of changing that particular mode of garbage collection. And the talk is down the road is that Clarenville will no longer have a garbage contract per se. Is that Clarenville will be designated as a transfer station for garbage that will later be trucked into St. John's. So when that comes on stream, we don't know. We're kind of hearing something that maybe this year we'll see some movement in that regard. We're not sure. Planning and development, $148,000. That takes in the Economic Development Committee we put in place a couple of years ago, and also our what we call our Beautification Committee. We've got some money allotted to a committee that we give. I think it's around $40,000. And our economic development, as you know, last year we did some major work in economic development. We developed a new logo. We developed a new branding strategy. So we certainly plan to continue work in that field, and we've allotted about $107,000 in that particular area for this in this budget. And number 6, the recreational and cultural services, a little over $1 million, and that of course looks after the bulk of our recreation facilities. We do know that 3 years ago we built a new $15 million event center, which is state of the art. And of course, that center has to be maintained and operationalized. So in that particular area, for example, the wages that would take to run the event center, we budgeted around $350,000 in this budget for that purpose. The hydro, for example, to run the event center, this current budget, I think we've allotted somewhere around about $172,000 for a hydro bill just for the event center. And of course, then we have the parks and playgrounds piece of it as well. Also, in that particular area as well, we've allotted $50,000 in this budget for the upcoming Winter Games in 2014. Council made a decision back, I think it was 2 years ago, to give $25,000 per year over 4 years for the purpose of hosting the Winter Games. I think we were behind a year, so I think we pumped in an extra $25,000 in this budget. All right, and the last piece is the fiscal services, which is a little over $3 million. And that, of course, primarily includes the loan payments that we have on all our loans that we've incurred over the last number of years, plus our interest payments. And that piece as well, that also talks about the loans that we get from the province. As you may or may not know, when the town borrows money from the province, we get it based on an 80-20 ratio, which means that the town puts in 20% and the province puts in 80%. We're hoping Nancy is going to put in the other 20% for us when we get as a co-op. we start our other facilities. The fiscal services also includes some of our major capital works program. In this budget, we've allotted a little over $493,000 into what we hope to, what we call a road maintenance program. We hope to be able to do some, major work on our roads and infrastructure, what we call not a minor scale, but is money that is work that we could do on our roads without having to apply to the province for multi-year funding. So, last year I think we put in a couple $100,000. This year we're hoping to put in, well, we've allotted $493,000, so we'll see what we can do with that. Also, capital equipment, around $20,000. As I said in the budget of when we released the budget in December, we're going to purchase what we call a vehicle maintenance management system. It's kind of a radar type system. You see it if you go to some municipalities. It's a portable system we can use to put on streets. For example, if people know how fast you're driving. What comes to mind, for example, is the school in Shoal Harbour. If people are driving along that street and driving with excessive speed, the plan would be to have a sign down there, and drivers can see how fast they're going. Hopefully, we'll educate drivers and help them to slow down and this type of thing. Also, in the recreation and the capital works, we've allotted $30,000 to go towards the continuation of building the age-friendly park up by the high school. And we've also included in that particular budget $15,000 to replace the fencing at the tennis court there on Legion Road. So that's the total expenditure, a little over $9 million. So any questions on the expenditure part before we get to the revenue piece?
$400,000 coming in for roads, for regular maintenance. You're just doing that on your own, so the province's not chucking any money towards it.
Right, yeah.
But that $400,000, wouldn't you be better off? I know the province is limited on what they give you. Is that a problem? This would be money over and above what the province will get us. We also applied to the province for multi-year funding or for capital works budget, and we had the money put up front with that as well. This is money over and above that particular piece. If you ask for more money from the province, $400,000 can't get it.
No, right, yeah.
John, with all the changes coming to garbage collection and how we process or collect garbage, are there any initiatives in the minds or any plans being planned by the town to try to reduce waste, to try and get people to think more about recycling, composting, that kind of thing? Is there anything underway to try and change people's habits?
Some discussion. We've had some discussions at the council level around trying to develop a strategy. To be honest, we haven't. There's not a lot of work done, except for the fact that we acknowledge that we need to develop, a procedure and a strategy to deal with that in terms of recycling and composing or whatever the case may be. We're just we need to do that anyway. We're just waiting to see now where we are with the waste management plan in terms of. But we recognize as a council we should be moving ahead in that direction as it is, but we're not very fast. But we're having that discussion. Okay, so let's move into the revenue side. Okay, okay. Just a graph that will show again give a better idea on the expenditure. When you look at what we just talked about, the monies in various departments, you'll see that 36% of the expenditures goes through the general administration. What's the next highest there? 22%. What's the green? Transportation services. 11% would be recreation. Fiscal services would be 36%, obviously. The blue, 13% would be the general administration. That's right. So that just gives you a clearer picture of where the money goes and what department.
The question has been asked. I know planning and development is always a very thin slice, but economic development did receive over $100,000 in terms of the budget allotment. Is there a more specific breakdown of what that $170,000 will be spent on?
The 107 in economic development, we put money there for wages, obviously. We put money there for trade shows and conferences. We put money there to develop a winter plan and tourism strategy. We put money there for travel and for rent. We have to rent space. And we've also put around $23,000 into it to develop a communication strategy. So that's more precise as to what it's for. Okay, again, that's just the chart which will give you maybe some clearer picture as to what area takes the bulk of our money, of what we spent. Okay, in the revenue side, again, the total revenue is the same as we see in the expense side. The town, by law, has to develop and submit a balanced budget. So again, the total revenue in this budget is a little over, well, the same as the expenditure side, $9 million. Where will we get our money? Property taxes, of course, is the bulk of where the town generates the revenue. And in this budget, we will get approximately $2.6 million from the residential property taxes, and I'll talk a little bit later how we arrived at what we get from the residential property taxes based on the mill rate, and we'll talk a little later what the mill rate is and how we chose the mill rate that we did. Again, and the property tax for commercial property taxes, of course, we will generate approximately $840,000. The business tax, we will generate approximately $1.7 million. The water and sewer fees, we will generate a little over $1 million. I think it's $1.5 million. The provincial contribution to the debt, that's the money that comes from the province to pay off our loan portion. And the other revenue was $100,000. Did I say poll tax? I did say poll tax. Poll tax, we're going to generate around $260,000. And poll tax, of course, is a tax that we charge individuals who are not paying property taxes and who live outside of the community and are not living in a incorporated town or municipality. They're subject to pay poll tax. Poll tax has been a very hot issue among most councils for the last number of years, and continues to be a major source of contention particularly for residents who live in town and are renting and has to pay high rent because of taxes goes up for landlords and like. So some municipalities have done away with poll tax. We've debated that among our table as well. Although when you generate $250,000 in revenue, it's hard to replace that. Gas tax, our gas tax money, of course, we're going to get again this year a little over $226,000 for a gas tax. And the MOG, the municipal operating grant that we get from the province is now $144,000 again, and that's a major source of confrontation. You may have heard in the news over time that the province and MNL are in discussions about trying to come up with some other kind of fiscal arrangement for municipalities. We're not sure what the fiscal arrangement will be, what it would look like, what it will entail. We're not sure whether or not they will increase the MOGs to the municipalities. There was a time back in, I think in '98, when I was around in council before, our MOG was probably closer to $600,000, $700,000. But government has has taken out and reduced MOGs to all the municipalities over the past 10 or 12 years. So whether or not they will add to that, I'm not sure. I don't think they will, but I'm not sure what kind of fiscal arrangement they will be doing in the next little while. Okay, any questions on the revenue side?
That difference, or the property taxes, the commercial versus the residential, is that indicative of other municipalities? Is that what we'd see in terms of this 24% is commercial versus 76% residential? Is that common? Is that what you see in other municipalities?
Yeah, in communities of our size, it would be, right? Yeah. If you look at a community like CBS, for example. I don't know what CBS would be, but I mean, you know, for communities of our size, that would be, you know, and we have, you know, I mean, we have, maybe even better, because we have a lot of, you know, there's a lot of commercial establishments in our town compared to other jurisdictions, right?
John, one thing we'd asked for prior to the budget coming down this year, we did the pre-budget consultation. We asked the members of the chamber to have the ability to pay their business tax out over 6 months of equal installments.
Yeah.
You know, we get the issue in our membership that oftentimes January, February, March are the slowest times of the year, and that's how your business tax in that quick of a time frame can put some stress on some members. Was there any kind of consideration given to that when doing the budget?
Yeah, it certainly was. You know, and I meant to say at the onset around the budget, in the budget process, you know, one of the things we did this year again was to have a public consultation, and we did not get a lot of participants, but we certainly got 3 very good presentations. One of the presentations from the chamber, had indicated, made that recommendation as Brian had talked about. And we did have a fair amount of discussion around the council table with that. The only issue with it, we didn't bring it in. I'm not saying maybe some, I'm not sure we're going to be around. This is our last term, so I can't speak for what other councils will do. But, we thought it had some merit. The downside to it was the fact, logistically, we thought it might be some issues around the administration piece. We spoke to, our staff, our town clerk. Also, to be fair or not, we thought, there was some credence if we did that for the business community, should we do the same thing for residents, who had to pay their property taxes and maybe, may have had some issues with that. So we took it a bit on a wider scheme, and we kind of thought, well, not to down it outright, but maybe we need to give it some more thought. Maybe as opposed to doing it just for the business community, is there a way we could do it for all the residents as well? So when we got to that level, we kind of said, logistically, would it be possible? What would it mean to our cash flow in terms of, would it mean that we would have, we normally have to pay off most of our loans by 1st of April, so we wondered what impact it would have on our cash flow. So, that's why at this stage of the game, that recommendation never got adopted, but it was certainly well discussed, and and there's some merit to it. I'm not saying future councils maybe need to give that some thought. Any other questions on the revenue and expenditure side before we get to just move to the tax structure? Okay, no, okay. I figured our graphs. I figured we did. We spent a lot of time doing up this PowerPoint, by the way, right? So again, that shows the bulk of where the money comes from. The green, 20% comes from, 30% comes from property taxes. Like I say, that's the highest. That's where we generate most of our revenue. And of course, next to that would be the business tax, right? What's the 0%? What's that? That's grant in lieu. Okay, that's for grant in lieu would be for government gives us some money for. We don't charge government taxes under properties, under schools, and hospitals alike. So they just give us a small grant in lieu. All right. Again, you can see property taxes way ahead and way ahead in terms of how it generates revenue. Yeah. Okay, the tax structure for the town of Clarenville for 2013. The property taxes, how we generate property taxes, we attach a mill rate to your value of your properties that's assessed by the MIA, and we assign a mill rate to it. And as you know, this year was a very difficult year. The Municipal Assessment Authority did an assessment throughout the entire province, and most municipalities were faced with huge increases. Most residents, I guess I should say, were faced with huge increases in their properties, in their assessed value. In the town of Clarenville, for example, the average increase for residential was 32%, while the business side of it, their values went up about 12%. Meaning, of course, that if we didn't change the mill rate, of course, in our case, residents would have had to pay in some cases as high as 55–60% increase in their taxes. Our mill rate prior to 2013 was 7.75. So for the residential property taxes, and our mill rate for the commercial, for the business, was 8.25. So what we did, after great discussions, a lot of debate, checking with municipalities throughout the province, so we reduced our mill rate by 1.25 mils. So our mill rate for the residential properties went from 7.75 to 6.5. And that, of course, meant that residents wouldn't have to pay the enormous increase in their residential property taxes that they would have had to do. So what it meant in the long run for most residents is that rather than having to pay 50 or 35 or 45%, depending on what their values were, I think the average would have worked out now after we reduced our mill rate. They would have to pay all residents will be faced with a minor increase in taxes for properties. I think it went from 10–12% in most cases, I think, right? So our mill rate now for this year is 6.5, and again, that's exceptionally low. Not many municipalities of our size in the province would have a mill rate of 6.5. You may have heard on the news from time to time, if you listen to municipal politics, is that for communities, is that pretty well all the municipalities reduced their mill rates this year. Some by 1.2, 1.5, some by 2, some by half, or whatever the case may be. But I've never heard of any municipality yet, I don't think, what I've listened to, who's got a mill rate lower than 6.5. So for the commercial side, prior to 2013, the mill rate, as I said, was 8.5. We reduced that by 1/4. So the mill rate for the commercial properties will be 8.25. The minimum tax was $300. That remains the same. Everything else in that category, I think, has pretty well stayed the same. Our poll tax stayed the same at current poll tax is $325 a person. Let's just stick to that top, see what else we got there. Okay, that's no change. That's our poll tax. That's our water and sewer that we charge. Okay, what you see here is the bill rate that's assigned to the various businesses, and depending on what category of business you fit in, there's a mill rate assigned to each category. That's the same for 2012, except for one minor change. We changed the Class P. Class P on the other page. Yeah, Class P is the professional services category. The reason why we changed that seemed to be out of whack with most of the other municipalities that we checked in. Ours was up to, I think at one point it was up to 36 or 37 a couple of years ago. We made a small adjustment, I think it was 2 years ago, brought it down to, I think it was 32, and this year we brought it down to 28. So that was the only change, and that brings them more in line now with, because we normally check with most of the other municipalities around mill rates and what categories. So that brings it more in line now with with what we have in other municipalities of our size. Any questions on the tax structure, mill rates?
In St. John's, we merged together the business tax and commercial property tax to do away with the business tax.
Yeah.
Any consideration given to that at our level?
No, not really. We had talked about it because we knew St. John's was making that move. We didn't give it a lot of discussion whether or not that's future down the road, and other councils may want to look at that. I don't know what that would do to it, but that's the only. I think St. John's is the only municipality I've heard going in that route, but they generate, I suspect, enough revenue from the other side. They could probably do it. It may be a little bit more difficult for us to do it unless we have to make some other adjustments in some other categories. But you never know. Right?
Could you give an example of a Class P?
Class P would be professional services, would be lawyers, doctors, accountants, right? some people would say they're in the category to make the most money, but we don't. We're not going to argue with that. But when we look at that, like I say, our mill rate for that category was way out of whack with the other municipalities, and we want to bring that more in line, in a way of trying to attract the individuals to our community. We would hate to see some person go to Marystown because the mill rate happened to be a lot lower than what Clarenville's is, when we think Clarenville's a much more ideal location for them to be in the first place. But if that can attract other people to be here, that's more power to it, right?
John, the only municipality I've heard beat the drum on the provincial government's lack of paying taxes is St. John. When Dennis O'Keefe was on to discuss the fact that government doesn't pay really any tax, they pay grant and lieu.
Yeah.
And if you look at the percentages in Clarenville, they're very similar to St. John because we're a government town.
Yeah, we're a service centre, no doubt. Yeah.
And as a result, the burden is shared really amongst the business and the residents as opposed to
no, exactly
the
right.
provincial government.
Yeah.
Has there been any talk in municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador, or amongst the towns to say we need to push government to pay taxes for their buildings?
Yeah, it's on M&L agendas almost every conference, every convention we go to. There's resolutions made to have those discussions with government, but government are the ones who makes the decisions. And I don't know if we'll see a change in that. Like I say, St. John's has been pushing that matter for years and years. So that, government should pay their equal share, or fair share, not even equal share, but their fair share of taxes to municipalities. But whether or not that might be a part of the way when we talk about the new fiscal arrangement that government and M&L are now talking about. You may see something in that line. There may be a way they may contribute more funding to municipalities based on government services or facilities they have in the municipality. I don't know, but certainly it's always a bone of contention with that. Next one. All right, this particular slide here tells about a new initiative now that we've undertaken for this particular year and included in our tax structure. We're going to bring in the what we call, I guess, the reduction in taxes for low-income individuals. So what it will mean now is that the individuals will have to apply. But what we see here is that any individuals in the community who live and have a house and has income, say, that's less now than $15,000, will be eligible to receive a 40% reduction in their property taxes. And it goes on a sliding scale, from 15 to 16.5, they will be eligible to receive a 30% reduction in their property taxes. And of course, it goes up as far as $20,000, and if your income is less, it's between $18,000 and $20,000, the person could receive a reduction in their property taxes of 10%. So that's a new initiative that we've undertaken this year, and we're not sure what the uptake will be. I do understand from talking to the town clerk yesterday that they have got some calls and people have dropped in for their applications. We've got an application process started. So certainly, certainly we think it's a good initiative, and ties into our low income and housing issue, and making housing more affordable for our residents, and those types of initiatives. So we'll just have to see how that plays out in the next year. Okay, let's see where we're to. Okay. Okay, in our long-term debt, in this particular budget, of course, when we talked about what we had in fiscal services, our repayment, some of the initiatives that we will take this year is that last 2012 we applied to provincial government for multi-year funding, so we were given a $2.3 million multi-year funding. And of course, we had to include the repayment on that loan in this particular budget, and we have. And if you don't know, the $2.3 million funding that we have has been allotted. I think $1 million of that is going to go towards some improvement up on the roads in Cormac, Viking. There's some major flooding up in that area in some houses, so we have to do some major work up there, up on Viking, Princeton Park, up in that area. And I think the other $1 million is going down to do some major work on a street down in Short, I think it's Forest Road down in Short Harbour. Right, and we've also just developed our commercial development up on Cosh Place. That cost us about $1 million. And as well, for those of you who don't know, we've also included in that particular part a $200,000 loan that we will undertake to do some work down in the Elizabeth Swan Park. As you well know, this is tied into the Craft Celebration Tour, which we've got $25,000 from to make renovations to the Elizabeth Swan Park. So between that particular funding, between the town and between the COA, we will now do some major work down in the park in that area. And just close it off by saying then we tie all our revenue and all our expenditure into what we can afford to do, and we end up with what the towns call a debt ratio. And our debt ratio, based on our revenue and expenditures now for 2013, is 17%, which is fairly significant and fairly good for a town of our size. Which means, of course, that for every dollar the town takes in, 17 cents goes towards repayment of our loans. That leaves us in extremely good financial shape if we got to ever go back to government to ask for more money at any time, whether it be for an emergency or whether it be for more multi-year funding. That certainly leaves us in great financial shape. Most towns has a debt ratio of 23, 24, 25%. And when you're up 25, 26, 30%, the government frowns on municipalities being able to borrow money or go back to them and ask them for more money. So we think that the town is in great financial shape, and I would like to think that that's because we got a good finance chairman. That's not the case. Anyway, that's the gist of the presentation. Any questions around any of the budget stuff? Dennis?
You spoke to short-term capital work stuff to a degree, but in the long-term stuff, I mean, the developments that are now happening up by the Clarenville Inn, we'll say, with the new Orange store and another time Tim Hortons is going there. Is there talk about new entrants for Clarenville, safety on the highway, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, there is, and that's a good question, because a pet peeve of mine. I remember speaking at when we started the election back in 2009. One of my opening remarks was that the entrance to the town of Clarenville had to be improved. The Holiday Inn Hill, as I call it, coming down had to be widened and had to be improved. So the end of the 4 years is almost up, and the work is not done. So I don't know what that means, but. Anyway, and the matter has gotten more serious now, Dennis, you're right, because with the Orange store going up here now, and with the planned Tim Hortons going on the side, it's incumbent upon our part, and I speak to council at this every time I get a chance, so I raise the issue. It hasn't been done yet because all the development is not done. But we are told, we are applying for money, and the plan is that we are going to we're not going to change the entrance there. There was some talk first the entrance may be changed and moved down a bit. That's not going to happen. The entrance will stay where it is, but it's going to be widened, and the plan is to have a three-lane road go up. Will it go up the whole width of the Holiday Inn Hill, as I call it, Memorial Drive? I'm not sure, but certainly 3 lanes, say from the end of Viking Street, going up and widen that road out. So that's the plan for that road. But the entrance won't be changed, no. In terms of a new entrance for the town of Clarenville, I could just briefly say there are discussions going on with the province about that. In light of the entrance out, for example, out on the highway here, it's considered to be a very dangerous intersection. As a matter of fact, I think council had a meeting with Municipal Affairs a few weeks ago, just prior to Christmas, about that. I think that on the long-term plan for the entrance is to take an entrance out by the White Hills Road, and we'll come in back of Walmart or Kent down that area. That's the long-term plan, but whether or not how long that will happen, we don't know, but that's the plan.
How's got the money from Eagle yet?
The town has got pretty well all the money from Igor except I think it's around $75,000 or $80,000 that's left to come in. So we've got almost $400,000 or $450,000 back from Igor.
Paul just indicated that Tom Marshall's not on Mr. Finance. You better have your phone.
Oh, well, wonder my phone didn't ring, did it? What?
And Jerome's number.
You and Mr. Gall.
Who got the job? Did you say? Kennedy. Is that the only switch?
So far.
Oh, okay. All right, any more questions? Mr. Power, I'm sure you have to ask me questions, sir. I can see but a smile on your face.
According to your annual financial statements, the town has an accumulated surplus of over 50 million. Why can't we have a tax-free year?
Yeah, I think we're going to plan that for 2014.
Seriously, you get all that money?
Yeah, we don't have the money. Our accumulated, when we're talking about the $50 million, we're talking about the value of our town in terms of facilities and infrastructure and those types of issues. But if we had $50 million, we'd have no interest with Holiday Inn Hill, I'll tell you that.
John, one other thing we had asked for through the chamber during the bus conversation was to follow in suit with CBS.
Yes. Yeah.
And that members of the Chamber of Commerce and CBS receive a $100
Yes.
Rebate
Yeah.
on their business tax
Yeah.
by joining membership in the chamber.
Yeah.
Was any consideration given to that for this town?
Again, that generated a fair bit of discussion. Some for, some against. The consensus would seem to be to think, there was certainly, the town, would like to see a strong, like to see a strong business sector, build a strong chamber of commerce. Some people were saying, not sure what role the council would have in that in terms of, giving the businesses, 100 or some, a break on their taxes for joining the chamber. Some people felt, well, would the same thing apply to having to give it to some other agency or some other group or some other volunteer group, whatever the case may be. That might be a little bit a way out of it, but it just generated, people were thinking it may generate a lot more controversy maybe, or a lot more issues than what was actually, should. You're right, some towns does it, I think CBS does it, you're right. I don't think any other municipality does it in the province. That's not saying they shouldn't look at it. But that's the, like I say, in fairness, there was some thought given to it, but, the overall consensus was that, not sure at the end of the day if that should be a role that council should play in giving that, giving the business, say, a break on their taxes for that purpose. And we certainly appreciate what the business does. We certainly encourage a strong business sector, but so that's where it was. And this stage of the game never got through this council. Whatever get through with some other councillors, some other councils may take a different view on it. They might, but that's the gist. But certainly, certainly nothing wrong with the recommendation. I'm not saying it wouldn't fly. Some other time with some other council or whatever the case may be. But that's right. Anyway, we appreciate the recommendations. Any other questions? Mr. Power? Okay, if no questions? If not, then I certainly thank you for the opportunity, and I certainly hope this enlightens you as to how we operate as a municipality, and how we expend our money and how we generate our money, and certainly gives you a better idea of where we're to in the financial scheme of things. And as I said, I think as a town we are in we're in extremely good shape financially wise. We have certainly good staff, who manage our money well, and who are cognizant of the fact that that we only have so much money to go around. And we certainly, hats goes off to all our staff in that regard. And like I say, overall, we think we're in good shape, and I think we are a town it's going to be just should be reckoned with. We're a fastly growing town. There's no question about that. We're ideally located. I always said that ever since I came here, and I think we certainly have nowhere to go but up. And I think between us all as a town, as a business community, we certainly look forward to working with you all to make this town the best in the province. So like I say, You know, the last census showed the town of Clarenville grew by 14%. You know, so our population now, you know, exceeds the 6,000 mark. You know, we would think that perhaps, you know, 10 years from now, our population would probably be 10 to 12,000 residents. So that's, you know, and you're getting up to the Ganders of the world and, you know, those places. So.
There's no hockey team then.
Well, that's not like it is then. Anyway, again, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the town. Thank you very much.